Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity.
You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search. Focus that fire. And so we come together. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on January 3rd, 2020 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the shenanigans. I just can't talk. The shenanigans of time travel. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the person girding her loins for what is about to come, green-eyed music lover. Because this is going to get crazy, y'all.
And just fair warning, this is going to be one of the show weeks that is explicit. So, fair warning if you didn't catch that on the file. Because last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend ManatArms. Rick, ManatArms, I don't know what you want us to call you, but how are you doing?
What the fuck does girded mean?
It means that I'm bracing myself for impact.
And why are loins involved?
Because it's you, sexy man.
Oh.
Oh.
How are you doing?
How you doing? By the way, this man, very, very charming. Very, very smooth talker. We could
Rick
get in a lot of trouble.
Rick is the preferred nomenclature because ManatArms is a mouthful.
Yes, it is. Hi, Rick.
Oh, phrasing. Never mind. My bad. Totally unintentional.
So, usual introductory question for those who might not know who you are, the few and far between. Where can we find you out on the internet?
The easiest place to find me is on Twitter. It's man_at_arms2112. Do not enable alerts. If you follow me, your phone will go dead. I tweet a lot.
He is on Twitter a lot.
I have many GIF wars.
GIF wars.
There was a battle here. I'm trolling the Prime Minister of Australia right now, so I mean that's going to happen.
Yes, thank you. Yes,
from multiple accounts, just in case one gets banned.
Oh my gosh! Wait, you have more than one account?
No, I actually just used the podcast account because I'm like, if that one gets banned, I'll just make another one. That's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Well, Green, you wanna take over for interviewing him?
I don't know.
I'm interrogating him.
Interrogating him.
It's fine. Come.
Okay. We talk.
Give me your hand. Give me your hand.
Yes. Rick, what is your favorite story from Destiny?
Okay, that's not an easy question.
Sorry.
Or thing. It used to be Shin Malfur, but they finished that one, and I was disappointed. So we're going to forget that ever happened and that I said that.
Okay.
It's always revolved around the Vex, but specifically Kabir has always... I've just always had an affection for the character, even though it's a very small story and a very small role. With the whole noble sacrifice and making the Aegis out of his light at the end because he was dying because he drank saltwater Vex goop. And
Vex goop is appropriate.
I just want to, it's just you know what, screw it. I'm going to make a shield. Okay, then.
you make a shield. It was like he rolled a 20 on a dice in a D&D game. It was like, this is not a...
That's so accurate.
Mm-hmm. How do you make a shield? I don't. He rolled a 20, bro. He made a shield. We don't know how. He rolled a 20. He rolled a 20. Shield exists. Deal with it.
Have you read the newest stuff about Pahanan or not Pahanan, but Praedyth?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no, that's going to come up. Don't worry about it.
We'll
get to
Don't worry about it. That's going to come out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Up.
Oh my gosh. All right. So if the Vex is your kind of favorite thing, is there like, did you just kind of dive into lore, or was there some like entry level thing that got you into like looking into the story more? Was it
honestly? It was. I followed all of the other, the surface storylines, and I understood the Hive. They were easy-ish at the time. The Cabal were really black and white, so there was no challenge there. And I was just like, I don't understand what the Vex are on about. So literally, I'm like, okay, explain Vex in a Google search, and like I can't remember if it was Bife or Mylan popped up, and that just started my whole interest with the Vex, and because I know way too much about time travel. It's a weird thing I have. I know way too much about time. So immediately I was like, no, this is bad. This is bad.
This is bad.
This is. Oh no. Okay. This is fine.
I know. Oh my gosh.
It's not fine.
It's not fine.
None of this is fine.
I need more bourbon. We're not even started on the time travel stuff yet, and I'm already like needing a little bit more. The next question is normally what class do you play? But I already know that, and so does the rest of the world because Titan.
I have been known to Titan a bit.
Yes, but when we played together, we did
exclusively.
We did Iron Banner together, and you did not play a Titan because we had raised money. And you played, what was it? Was it a hunter or was it a warlock?
Both. I wouldn't say that I actually played those.
Well, you attempted.
I mean, I signed in as one.
You looked pretty for a little while.
I guess.
I signed in as one.
Oh, I can turn invisible. Cool.
Yeah, it's handy sometimes.
How I do that? Can I shade step? Yes. How I do this?
And we can't really shade step as much anymore, but
that was a horrible. But I am a top tree striker Titan in all game modes, which is why I am not good in a raid. Mm-hmm. Why are you shoulder charging everything? I don't understand what you mean.
I've always wondered, what did you just start on that day one and you just stuck to it? Like, is that your thing, or did you come to it?
No, I was a blade dancer.
Oh, really?
I got into Destiny. My stepson and I used to share an account because I had to help him. He played solo. I had to help him get through the really difficult parts because I'm an old school Halo player. I'm like, here, give me the sticks. Watch this kid. Oh my God. Yes, I am a death machine. So I wasn't allowed to play Titan because that was his character. Mm-hmm. And Warlock was right out. So I was like, okay.
Floofing.
Hunter sounds cool, and then it wasn't at all advertised as, the character description described it. It was like, you are a stealthy sharpshooter. No, we have none of this. This does not exist. So I was a blade dancer way past the age of reason. Like, they had nerfed that into oblivion, and I was still running through the Crucible as a blade dancer.
I mean, you could still do work if you had decent maneuverability, but...
I did. It was just like, I got Titan smashed one day, and I'm like, you know what? I want to see what that's like. Mm-hmm. So I made a Titan, and I've been a Titan ever since. I'm like, I've been doing this wrong. This is not my playstyle. Which Blade, in all honesty, Blade was a very aggressive hunter. Like, you play a Blade very much the same way you play a Titan in D1, because you're in someone's face constantly.
I mean, it's true. It's just, I don't know.
Or you could do the super invisible sneaky thing and be hated and get accused of cheating.
Be hated?
The invisible sneaky thing. What are you talking about?
Okay, so... Okay. So... there were, Let me tell you a story. This is not my first gamer tag. So there was a build you could do in D1 that I would do, and I still do this now. I get pissed off, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to use XYZ gun, and then I'll post it. It's like a 25 kill match. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to playing relaxed now. So when I was a Blade and it happened, you could make an invisibility build, and you could combine it with Kepri's Sting.
Oh, right.
So basically you could just kneel and be invisible all the time. But I used to do that with a Wormwood and the Last Word.
Oh, God.
Yes. So I was hated, and I got reported for cheating a lot because people would just die to this invisible person that was not there a second ago. Mm-hmm. This dude's a hack. How do you hack an Xbox? So it was very it was very toxic. It was very toxic.
I remember doing that a little bit on, what was the Mercury map that had B up on like a high level where you had to climb up a ramp?
Oh, that was Vertigo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would do that there because there are a lot of, like, I love multi-tier levels. The Titan map right now where B is also up on a little platform is my favorite one because people don't pay attention to the fact that the radar is just slightly red or really red. They just see that you're in the vicinity and they don't know where you're coming from. It's great. Anyway, I don't have really a crazy question because I have a feeling the episode is just going to be kind of crazy.
Oh, okay.
So, Blue, special announcement?
We don't really have any big special announcements. We do, well, I guess we kind of do. I have
what this is?
Well, yes, I guess that's a special announcement too. Two then, I guess. The first one is the one that I was thinking of, is that we actually had someone join the team. You guys will know her as Mochi Llama. She's going to be helping with the Lore Network website and kind of just coordinating a lot of the outreach over there, making sure like getting schedules kind of started over there. And she is going to be kind of helping with the Twitter for that whole side of things. So we're hoping to kind of build that out and get some stuff started over there. If you're not already following the Lore Network either on Twitter or the website itself, I really encourage you to kind of go give it a glance and go check it out. The other thing is, as Green said, is this entire thing. We've done a few Let's Chats in the past. I think this is actually technically the 7th one that we've done. But what we're going to start doing is we're going to start doing these the first week of every month to kind of give us not necessarily a break from lore, because you'll see, well, this one will kind of be here, but we're going to dovetail back into Destiny lore. But what it also gives us is a chance to kind of really just take our time and kind of talk about stuff that's not necessarily lore. It gives us a little bit of a breathing space every month, and also it will give us some time to if there's something going on with the Lore Network, we have a space to kind of announce that here as well. And I don't know, Green, that was a terrible announcement, but do you have anything else for me?
It works. It's going to be a little bit, not necessarily less structured, but less scholarly in some ways. More of a debate of topics rather than us teaching exactly everything going on. Anyway, standard intro notes.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Intro. So, and basically this is going to be a pretty good example of exactly what that's going to be, because we're going to be talking about time travel and the shenanigans. And, as Rick had mentioned, it's going to get back to Destiny, because there is going to be components that we use Destiny as an example. So, but enough with our chattering and my terrible special announcements. We're going to run through a couple of quick housekeeping notes, and then we'll get right into it. Last episode, we discussed the lore book unveiling. If you're enjoying the show, please be sure to let us know by giving us a shout over on Twitter, leaving a comment on Podbean, or sending us a quick email at focusfirechat@gmail.com. Reviews or comments on where we can improve are always welcome. They let us know what we can do better to create a more enjoyable experience for everyone. To all who have already sent feedback or left us a review, thank you. As many of you are aware, Focus Fire Chat is a community in which we offer the chance to dive into lore from within various titles and mediums with a special focus on the Destiny universe. Every Friday at about 10 p.m. Central, the podcast team gets together to stream a summary of the chosen topic for that week. The hope of this is to help encourage dives into aspects of game lore within both our Discord server and within the other communities we share the digital world with. If you're a fan of lore in all its various forms, be sure to also check out thelorenetwork.com, a central hub for content that covers a wide variety of different titles and mediums. Our full show notes for each week's topic will be posted there, so for the additional information or guest details, be sure to check the site out. Our next topic is going to be a look at the lore book Dawning Delights. That being said, however, we still want to hear your thoughts about this week's topic. Be sure to weigh in over on Discord, and don't be shy in tagging any of the team in on the conversation. We can't wait to read what your thoughts are. But for now, let's get back to the show. So, I don't know where's the best way to start with this one other than, I guess, really... kind of talking about just the idea of time travel as a trope, really. And Green, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that or if you wanted me to kind of jump into it or how you would like.
I mean, the idea of being able to go back and affect a terrible event or a positive event and see something or do something has been around for a long time. Like every series in the 90s, like this is a terrible example, but every series in the 90s, including things like Hercules and Xena, did a time travel trope episode, which it's just one of those kind of standard, what would happen? It's a nice little thought experiment to dive into. But I think that besides the idea of the trope, beyond that, it's been a thought experiment not only in pop culture, obviously, but also through physics itself and science and mathematics and everybody diving into what is time, trying to define it, because that's really ultimately where we kind of boil down to. You don't just have the idea of the trope of, hey, I go back and I can see my own dad. Well, yeah, that's awkward and you shouldn't do that, but the concept of time itself, can it even be affected in that way, or is that just a fanciful idea?
I can tell you how we ended up having this conversation, and this might get things rolling because I have a diatribe. So the reason I asked to come on and do this was when The Undying Mind came out. This topic kept threatening to come out on our podcast. And I would stop it and I go, this is not the right format or show to have this conversation because I will completely lose my mind. And we just kind of, we just move on. Well, Pens was there. I was like, Pens, I'll tell you what, I'll ask Green and Blue if I can go on you guys' show and unload, so to speak. So this is where all this stemmed from initially. So with me, when you're talking about time travel and storytelling, I've had this conversation for literally like 2 decades, so I can touch all the bases and why I have a problem with time travel and storytelling fairly quickly too. Like I can shoot for 7 minutes, I think. But we're gonna tell a story. It's an analogy. I call this Time Cop, not the crap Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. This is my Time Cop. My Time Cop is much better written. Because that movie is horrible. 7 minutes long. Time is a construct, so we'll see how it goes.
Well done. Well done.
Okay, so in stories, be it movies, be it cinema, be it video games, basically, we're going to call our protagonist Time Cop. It all involves around somebody going back in time and trying to change an event that went horribly wrong. So in my story, Time Cop is rushing into an apartment building. He has partial information, and he is trying to stop a bad guy who is assembling the detonator to a bomb. But he doesn't know the exact room he's in. He knows he's either in room A or room B of this apartment complex. So Time Cop goes through door A. It's the wrong door. He quickly spins around. He hears the bomb go off. Disaster has occurred, okay? It doesn't matter for the story what happens after the bomb goes off. Whether he catches the guy or not, this is immaterial. Years go down the road. Time passes. He has the opportunity to go back in time and influence his past self to get him to go into door B. So Time Cop goes, and in a movie or in a video game, he influences his past self to go into door B. Time Cop kicks open the door. He tackles the bad guy and saves the day. So here's where my problem starts. Okay.
But there's lots of questions. Like, if he goes back and he dies, then his future self can't come back again. But if he goes back as future self and gets rid of the thing, and then this is why I need to drink.
Just drink. It's a journey. Okay. The first problem you have with this. Jesus Christ, you derailed me. Damn you, Green.
I'm sorry.
In a story, this is how it works. So you had event 1, which was bad. Then you change it to event 2, and you get the outcome that you want. And there is much rejoicing and happy day. Anyone who's ever been in a tactical situation, when he goes through door B, yeah, he kicks open the door, but it's just not. He just doesn't rush in and save the day. He might not have enough leg strength. He has to kick the door a few times to get the door open, and the bomb goes off. He could kick the door open. The frame of the door splinters, snags his shirt. He could trip on a banana peel that the bad guy was eating and slip and fall. He could actually just rush in, tackle the bad guy, but the bad guy kicks his ass and sets off the bomb anyway.
Right.
There's an infinite number of things that happen once he goes through door B, and he can't change it again. So that's the first problem. So we're doing all this under the pretense that time is changeable. Otherwise, there would be no point in playing the game. So I want to tell the story of Time Bug now.
Wait, we went from Time Cop to Time Bug?
Time Bug. Time Bug will reveal his character shortly. No, just go with me. Okay. So in order for let's say Time Cop's plan to get his past self to go into door B was he was going to leave himself a sticky note and go, dude, it's door B, go into that one. Okay, well, he comes out of his portal or his machine or whatever. He goes to his car where he knows that it's parked. And his plan is, well, I'm going to go to where I know I'm going to be, leave myself a sticky note, and then put my car right back so it's like it's never moved and nobody will notice. So while he's driving to his destination, he hits a bug. And this bug dies on the windshield of his car. So Time Bug is dead. The problem is, a few days from that moment, Time Bug's future was he was supposed to get eaten by, we're going to call this character Time Frog.
Yeah, butterfly effect.
Oh, it's going to get so... This is so much better than Ashton Kutcher. Hold on. So the bug's destiny was to be eaten by this frog. So 2 weeks down the road, the frog is there, but there's no bug. So the frog goes somewhere else and finds another bug because the frog has to eat. So now months go by. Time Frog is just chilling on, it's a nice sunny Sunday morning on a step. Grandma comes out to check on her puppy. She steps on the frog. She breaks her hip. She has to go to the hospital. All these medical workers have to work on her now. Her family has to take care of her. And dozens, if not hundreds of people's lives, their future, their intended future that was going to transpire, has been changed irreparably because we killed one bug on the way to go just drop off a sticky note. Now, it's going to make sense in about 2 minutes, I swear to God.
Okay.
When he gets in his car and he drives to his destination, he is occupying space, the space the size of a car. So every intersection he gets to, every red light he's in, the person that would have been in his spot is behind him. So all of the people he comes into contact with in traffic, their days are thrown off just by milliseconds, which really doesn't seem like a big deal, except if you've ever been in a car wreck. Because anybody who's ever been in a car accident, the first thing you think of once your head clears and your heart stops racing is, if I wouldn't have forgotten my keys and went back in the house, then I would have left 30 seconds earlier. I wouldn't even have been at that intersection. This guy wouldn't have hit me, or if I wouldn't have stopped to get a cheeseburger. And all the events from the time you left your house to the time you were in your car wreck go through your mind. It was like, damn it, like 2 seconds difference would change me having my car wrecked right now, and I have to waste my day waiting for somebody to do this and deal with insurance, blah, 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 blah. So with Time Cop driving down the road, he is thrown off the future that was going to occur if he had not been there. He hasn't hit anybody, hasn't touched anybody. He's just thrown off the synchronicity of thousands of lives, because every person that he throws out of sync with that timeline is now out of sync perpetually. And everyone they come in contact, it's not happening the same way. So just by existing in the past and interfering with it in a really not too obstructive way, he's already destroyed the known universe, because now we're living in a timeline where we don't know what's going to happen because everything has changed. This is why I hate time travel and story. Scoob, what is wrong? The puppy. I made my puppy sad. Even my puppy is upset. You did make your puppy sad.
So it's the ripple effect.
It's synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. I'll be back.
Okay. So with that, going into the idea of kind of the affecting time in the past and everything like that, Blue, how do we want to go back into the actual concept of time?
Well, hold on. The dog interrupted the crescendo. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
So when you talk about the conversation we're having right now, the three of us, our beginning point is the Big Bang.
Right.
So when all matter in the universe was created, every particle, every piece of matter in the universe went and expanded. The events in our real life that have us having this conversation, everything in our lives in this universe was in a specific place at a specific time in the universe. That's massive. That's what the Vex calculate all of the time, because they're trying to determine an outcome.
Yeah, which is why they're requiring world computers.
So they're literally trying to calculate all of the little things. Because like I just illustrated in a very long, drawn-out and surreptitious story, how complicated meddling with time is.
Right. And I think the other thing, too, that a lot of times people forget is that our concept of time is ultimately a theory. There is no, so like I have on the notes, I was going to talk about the history of like the concept of time. There's this really, really good book that I read while we were in college, or while I was in college for one of our classes. It's Time and Psychological Explanation by Dr. Brent Slife. It was published back in 1993. And he presents this idea of the history of the concept of time. And he basically points out that the idea of what we refer to as standard time was actually not a concept up until 1883. So until 1883, the reason why standardized time came into existence is actually in order to standardize railroad schedules. Up until this point, the main mode of transportation for pretty much everywhere was horse and carriage, or just horses. So what this would mean is that each individual town or each individual city could maintain or keep their own time in their own time frames without impacting negatively anything around them. But with the introduction of the connections that the much quicker railroad system provided, this also required pretty much all of humanity to adopt a uniform construct of time. And so we came up with this idea of standard time. And so this also then kind of brought into play the idea of what's a concept called linear time. And linear time is one of those It's what's referred to as a pre-theoretical construct. It's a construct of our understanding of how the passage of time as a construct is. We view things in linear time. It's defined, and linear time is defined as a metaphysical assumption that time flows like a line, independently of the events that it supposedly contains. This is also where you get the idea of dimensions of time, past, present, and future. And the way that those dimensions are organized within the theory of linear time is that it is in a linear sequence. You have the past that then goes to the present and then goes to the future. So this inherently places a primacy on the concept of the past, because as the past occurs first, that forces the dimensions of the present and the future to remain consistent with it. So, and this is why we see the ideas of things such as causality, and then you see a really close alliance with causality and time. With an example of, so you have linear time, which is flowing forward, which is presenting this causality. There's also a theory called retrocausality, which is where it flows backwards, where the future influences the present, which influences the past. So there's a lot of these concepts of how this all works. And again, going back to the concept of standard time kind of led to this idea. And linear time has always been there. It's always been an assumption because we exist in a linear mode. Like our existence.
It's observable.
Right.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like when we observe things, it goes in one direction. So our concept of the passage of time is in this linear mode. But the thing is that doesn't necessarily equate. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only way it passes. So, and the intriguing thing is from a psychological standpoint, which is where this particular book is coming from, is the author, Dr. Slife, is actually looking at how us as individuals, this idea of causality and linear time actually promotes the idea of individuality. As you see the invention of standard time and the solidification of the concept of linear time within most of the hard sciences, you also see a rise in a lot of individual components within the social psychological makeup. And so when you look at how we reinterpret and reconstruct our memory, this is where it actually, you can see where that process in the present makes a point of showing that it would be much more accurate to say that the present causes meaning of the past rather than stating the past causing meaning of the present. So this entire book is presenting the idea that we, by existing in the present, actually are casting a meaning onto the past that if we didn't exist wouldn't be there, which it's a really basic concept when you start thinking about it, but it's one of those concepts that as a hard scientist, especially with empiricism, a lot of people just take it for granted that everyone assumes that this is the way that it is. It's like the concept of gravity. Gravity is just assumed to exist. Well, we all know once we start sitting down and start talking about gravity, that gravity is not, there's not a consistency to it. It might exist, but the effects of it are different depending on where you are located, what time you're observing it, how you're observing it, all this other stuff.
It's relative.
It is. Time is relative too. The passage of time is relative.
But that's the whole beauty of both gravity and time itself, as they are both in some ways not necessarily forces like gravity is. Gravity is a force that's dependent on the mass of the item being affected, right? Like it's that whole idea of a web.
It's a construct.
Yes.
It's a construct
but so
to
explain.
No, exactly. It's a construct to explain something that we are observing. And the idea of like, and so the presentation, let me see if I could find this paragraph real quick, because he presents it really funny, actually. His introduction is talking about how when he was growing up, here, let me see. Yeah. So he says, quote, "When I was growing up, few political or even economic issues seemed to disturb the serenity of our small farming community. One issue, though, clearly sticks out in my mind. The farmers of our town were so concerned that they would have fought a war over it if they could. Congress was again debating the merits of daylight saving time. The Arab oil embargo was in full swing, and research had hinted at the possibility of widespread energy savings. All we had to do was turn our clocks up 1 hour. Nevertheless, the people of our community found this proposal positively abhorrent. I heard things like, they have no right to fool around with God's time, and they might say it's 3 o'clock, but my cows and I will know that it's really 2 o'clock. This was my first exposure of the concretization of time. The farmers in my community had concretized one organization of events as if it were the organization of event." And then that's end quote. That's where he goes off and talks about how the standard time was invented in 1883. But then he goes further and he says, we had invented this standard concept in 1883, and it had not been that long ago in the scope of things, and we have already adopted it to the point where you have the concept of, oh, this is God's time. Like you can't, like, humans are creatures of habit and are creatures of very repetitive habit. Like once you start doing stuff like that, no, go for it.
I mean, look at metric system versus imperial system.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing.
No.
No.
Deny the metric system on its face.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
I will die on this hill.
Oh my gosh. Yes, and that's the agreement that we all have about how time works, is how everybody agrees just because it's been standardized. But you're talking about the idea of standard time being the organization of it, right?
Correct. It ties into Einstein's thing about time being an illusion, not a constant.
Well, it was one of the different ideas behind time is that it is the perception.
Yes.
It's like a Schrodinger's cat type thing in some ways.
Unless you're observing it arguably doesn't you can't prove that it exists without observing it, which is that ties into a whole other issue of empiricism as a whole. But yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So how do we tie this into the concepts of time, and going back to Rick's story of if we are able to affect the past,
right? And I think
in some ways.
So I think the easy way, right? I think the easy way to do that
crux.
is to kind of point out the popular theories and models that you see both in popular science or popular culture, and then also actual science like physics. And so those usually the big three that I've kind of always seen is the concept of what's called a fixed timeline, the concept of a dynamic timeline, and then my ever favorite one of the multiverse. You also have the Tipler cylinder, which is like a really weird one.
This is math. We don't need to talk about that.
Tipler, oh God. I tried to read it, and I was like, I don't like this anymore.
All you need to know is that Stephen Hawking made a proof that discredited it.
Did he really? The infinite cylinder has gotten disproven?
It's not that the math is... It's just math. This is theoretical physics.
Right.
The math makes sense, but you couldn't actually make it real in real life.
Okay,
therefore, it's just math.
Yeah. And then you also have black holes, which is another kind of issue of, that proves the illusion of time.
It's just the bending of the perception, right? The fact that you'll never reach the center, supposedly.
Yes, supposedly. You're also not going to survive.
And there's also the whole time distortion because of gravity.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We'll get to that. That's jumping ahead.
That's just because gravity and time are intertwined. But yes.
Mm-hmm.
Cosmic strings, that's always a fun one. That's one of the newer ones.
Yeah, cosmic strings is one of the newer ones. It's
math. That's more math.
There's actually a really good book that I read in high school about cosmic strings.
Oh, really?
Easy enough for it's by Brian Greene.
I can sum up cosmic strings very simply. It's the Dark Tower. There's cracks in time. That could be a thing. Maybe.
Kind of.
There's little cracks in ice cubes and things. And it's more math. It's math.
It's a lot of math and a lot of multiple dimensions.
You can't write a blockbuster movie on cosmic strings. It's no. It doesn't work. No.
You totally could. I want to see somebody do it.
Nobody wants to see that.
Yes, they do.
There are people way smarter than us right now who have never been on a date with calculators.
This is true.
Working on that right now for some reason.
For some reason.
We don't know what that reason is. But occasionally they get pieces of paper that say, congratulations, you did math.
Congratulations.
So,
if I've offended any physicists, oh well, you should. What?
Oh wow, is that what you said?
I mean, you're listening to this show. You're probably already in the wrong place, so it's fine.
To tie it into and often you have different presentations of these theories, right? So you have like the one-way travel to the future, where you see, or one-way travel. So either back to the past, where you have a one-way trip. The one that comes to mind immediately for me was 12 Monkeys. You can travel back to the past, but you can't go back to the future, really. You also, I think Interstellar had a bit of it. I haven't seen Interstellar, but that was the example that a lot of people had.
There's actually a lot of really good. Well, there's tesseracts. There's black hole gravity distortion. Well, not even just gravity distortion in general. Not even black hole gravity distortion, but that is a part of it. There's a lot of very good science in Interstellar. So yeah, you should probably. Yeah, it's a long movie.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I have on my list, and I just haven't gotten around to it.
You have to watch it a few times.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Then you can have like things that you see with like A Wrinkle in Time, which is where you move through things called higher dimensions to kind of hop. You have the space-time vortex, which Doctor Who is infamous for with the TARDIS. You have the what's called the instantaneous jump, which is made famous with the Back to the Future series. Time traveling while standing still, which is time machine and Harry Potter. I guess I think it's the what's the little hourglass thing
that happened. That lovely Christopher Reeve movie, Somewhere in Time. He just time traveled, no reason.
Not the Superman version?
No, you're just like, he woke up in a hotel and it's like, congratulations, you're 100 years in the past. We don't know why.
That's like, enjoy
the next hour and 15 minutes.
A Yankee in King
Harry
Arthur's
Potter
court.
It's Time Turner.
Oh, okay, Time Turner. And then there's technically slow travel, which is, I still don't really understand why that just sounds like life. Faster than light, which is...
Well, that's the fairy tale one where you go in and you're gone.
Yeah, it's
Rip
Van Winkle, pretty much, is like you fall asleep and you wake up like 500 years in the future or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You have Faster Than Life, which is going to be Superman, Flash, Star Trek, Timescape. And then you have random ones like Time Cop, because you can get a rocket sled. And then also...
Is Time Cop that much different than the Back to the Future car?
I thought the rocket
Back to the Future
sled
had better science.
Yeah, rocket sled just kind of happened. Back to the
Does
Future
it punch you through?
Yeah, it was something weird. And then like the time, and then also you have like Terminator with the time displacement equipment and stuff, like the little bubble.
Interesting.
I like that. Drunken Guardian in chat. That's a good one. Example of slow travel would be like in Doctor Who, Amy's DNA being put into the box to be opened in the future by her childhood selfie touch. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay. I like this.
And then, of course, we get to the fun problems, with the biggest one being the most known being the grandfather paradox, which is always fun.
Okay, so
what other problems?
But there's a lot. I mean, synchronicity being a problem. That's the whole thing. Where if you just by simply existing, you are disturbing the synchronicity of that time space. Like and which is what Rick was talking about. Like your car, like you are displacing things that arguably should not be displaced. If you're gonna in this, there's certain theories that will result in certain problems, and there are other theories that have been made in order to respond. So like a fixed timeline, first off, you're not going to have paradoxes, because basically, and we'll get into this probably with the advanced episode a little bit, but like a fixed timeline has in itself an inherent defense against the grandfather paradox, whereas the dynamic timeline, that's where you're going to see a lot of paradoxes, because the dynamic timeline is actually able to be fluidly changed. And then you have multiverses, which just hurts my head. Like multiverses, just like if you start thinking about multiverses too much, I can't help but get a headache, because it's
cool.
I actually got my head around those, so we'll be fine.
Okay, cool. But yeah,
I need more booze.
I need more booze,
and possibly edibles. It's fine.
No, I can't do that right now. Anyway. I would, if I ever, no, there's no way I could do the show high.
She's like, she started and she's like, nope, never mind.
I'm just going to say that I could never do the show high. Ever. It would be bad.
I couldn't, because I'd have already ordered pizza and taken a nap.
Should we start wrapping up, just since we kind of named the concepts of it? Rick, did you have something else you wanted to add to Blue's idea before we
because this is going to get murky.
Oh, yeah. All right.
We should bail out as quickly as possible. And
So
get to the murkiness.
let's do an intro session shout-outs real quick, and then we can jump right into the advanced session. So for this round of shout-outs, Rick, you want to lead the charge?
I need Jugs. And just Jugs is just my point of contact. I have to find his Twitter. I'll put it in the notes. We have a friend, it's one of our Australian buddies, Jugzilla. I do not make excuses or apologize for his handle. Jugs,
When you said
I was right there with
saying,
you, Green. I'm like, all right, I don't know where this is going, but
I didn't name him, but Jugs was nice enough today on Twitter because really the only thing, because Australia is on fire.
Yeah.
So this isn't really a shout out for Jugs, but I'm going to put his Twitter in the notes somewhere once I find it, because he linked all of the ways if you wanted to help monetarily, which is what the people of Australia really need to support the firefighters, and did a huge thread on Twitter today because the country's on fire.
like the whole thing is
The whole
on
thing.
fire. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
So a weird shout out, but necessary.
Yes. Very much so.
And a horrible
Green,
gamer tag, but
and a horrible gamer tag.
Yeah.
Green, what about you?
My shout outs is to everybody in live chat this week. You guys are hopping for one, and a specific shout out to Barely a Destiny Show who hopped in here. Hi, Zanny. I believe that Zanny has been on the show, and Slapshot Scott and I talk quite a bit on the Twitters. But yeah, those guys, go hit those guys up if you haven't heard their show before. Barely a Destiny Show. It's pretty funny. Just a lot of it's a lot of guys just talking around about all sorts of different things. There's some like direction, but it's just mostly a lot of fun. But that one, and then I am scheduled, and I'm trying to look it up while I'm talking, I'm scheduled to be on a podcast on Karma's Revenge Show podcast next Thursday is when we're recording it. I don't know when they're going to release it, but I'll be doing that next Thursday on the 9th. Hello, future people.
Cool. And
I'll put out that.
Yes, awesome. And then we'll definitely get, if you want to give me links to it, I can get them in the show notes as well.
Cool.
A big shout out to, we had a new Podbean patron join the ranks, Lethargic Hades. So we really appreciate that. And then I also saw right before we jumped on that we had another person who was very generous and gave our Discord server a boost.
Yeah.
Which is really actually a really cool thing that Discord does. It actually helps us, because what it does is if you get a certain amount of people who it's called boosting, they actually upgrade the audio quality of Discord for the phone calls, so which is what we use to record the podcast. So that was a really I just went blank. Who was it? It was
It's an admin.
Taboo Emu. So really big thank you for that. We really appreciate that. So. But yeah, so basically that's all I got, and I know Green made me promise that I was going to have a sign out, but I forgot to get it ready, so bye. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.